tuning into the Realty. My name is Tisha Harris, and I'm the team leader of Texas Trio Team. I'm going to be your host today, and I'm really excited about our guest today. We have the special Chad Bowman. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, of who you are and what keeps you busy these days?
Alrighty. My name's Chad Bowman. I'm a branch manager with Veterans United Home Loans. I've been specializing in VA loans for over 20 years, and I cover the whole state of Texas, and my team backs me up on getting the loans done in 30 days or less. That's the plan. So, I'm a Marine Corps veteran myself, so serving fellow veterans is a huge thing for me. It's my passion.
That's awesome. And who are you?
Hi, I'm Michelle Duty. I'm on the Texas Trio Team.
And thank you for being on with us today as well.
Mm-hmm. Very well.
And so, it's that the spring market has sprung. And so we wanted to sit down with you because we honor our veterans and like what you've done for our country and what the members that you work with do as well on a day-to-day basis. So walk us through, like, what was the moment that you were in your life of like, I want to be a Marine?
Oh, it's going pretty far back. So I got out of the Marine Corps 30 years ago, so it's been a while. But I always wanted to be in the military, and I actually moved to Texas from Philadelphia right after high school. And I worked for about a year, and I was just ready to go in. So Marines was the only option for me. It's the only thing I ever wanted to do as far as military. So I joined the Marine Corps. I did 4 years of active duty back in the early 90s. I was a machine gunner, and got to see what it's like to be a grunt in the Marine Corps. So that's what I did. It was a great experience. At the time, I don't know if it was great, but looking back, it was great for my life and for my who I became, and just everything I learned from it that I didn't know at the time until later. I find out, hey, that was good for me. It's great to be a part of the Marine Brotherhood and be a part of the military. So
That's incredible. And so whenever you decided to join, can you kind of walk us through that process of how that felt, of like actually going to your first base and how it made you feel on the inside?
It's funny. I just have thoughts about that when you mention it. It's not maybe what you're looking for, but I remember all my luggage was lost when I was sent to my first duty station. So I'm in full uniform and everybody else is wearing something else. And I had to do that for like a week before they found my clothes and my uniform, everything else that I had brought. But it was just, I was young, I was early 20s. And so it was just a great new experience. Heard a lot about the military. It was great to just see what is it really like to be a part of it and to serve. So I don't know. It's a long time ago. I'm trying to remember what happened.
Yeah. I mean, I think that so many young men and women, like they like had their home life and then they're like, they've signed up for something great. And then they go into that and it's like, you lose your luggage and then like you have to like adapt to that really quickly. So that like learning those things has probably been something you've done moving forward as a business owner as well too.
Well, it was just being prepared for anything that could hit you. I mean, the mortgage business, you got to roll with it, right? There's something new, something crazy every day, and you've got to be prepared to, change the plan and be flexible and accept that, everybody's human. They people make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people buying houses don't know anything about the process, and so they're counting on us. And we have to remember, even though we've been doing it for more than 20 years, that next person that calls, that might be the first time they ever thought about buying a house. And so you've got to start from the very beginning to help them through the process. So I think part of being in the military is just being able to be a part of a big group, but also be prepared for anything that comes your way, work through it together. And that's kind of what it's done for me in the mortgage business as well. So
You're talking about adapting and overcoming, and I'm having a fight with this over here. I'm so sorry. Michelle, I'm going to ask you to take the lead on this while I figure this out. I might have paused this whole thing. Okay. No, I think I'm good now.
Hey.
I'm so scared it's going to fall over.
you're testing me to see if I'd fix it, right? It's all good.
No. So, you did the Marine Corps, you started a family, and then you got to a point where you're just like, okay, I want to be a mortgage broker. So what was that decision?
Yeah, funny. So, I actually served 4 years active duty, got out, came back to Austin, Texas, went to University of Texas, Macomb School of Business, Finance, all that. So I'm a numbers guy. Went to get my first house, actually my second house. My first house was seller financed, so I didn't need a VA loan or anything. The seller just let me pay him $400 a month, and I got this house.
$400?
Yeah, it was like $470 or something.
Wow.
So that was because I just gotten out and I didn't have a job, or I was going a full-time student. But when I went to actually use a VA loan, it was kind of like, hey, you don't want to do that. It's full documentation. It takes a lot of work. They're really bad. You just don't want to do that. And I'm like, okay, well, let me look into this because this is a benefit that I get for serving in the military.
Right.
And as a numbers guy, I looked at it and it was just like, you got to be kidding me. This is the best thing out there. That's so much better than any other program. And so I ended up going with my first, VA loan, getting that myself. And then I actually spent 5 years in finance, but really, long story, I ended up in California, came back to Texas. When I came back to Texas, I immediately went into the mortgage business. And my very first purchase loan was with a military veteran. And he had lost his entire life savings to a financial advisor who had just taken it all. For him and his wife, just gone. Everything they had was gone. So he didn't trust anybody. And here he was trying to buy a house with no assets, really, just what he was making in retirement. And I remember driving from Austin to Burnet, sitting down with them in the back of a real estate office, just trying to help them understand how the process works, trying to gain their trust so they could feel comfortable going through the process with me. And it was such a great experience that was my first purchase loan I ever did. And since then, that's all I've done is VA loans. It was such a great experience to be able to help a fellow veteran. I went to his family, to his house, his wife's house. She made me monkey bread. I got to know my first clients in a way I never had done that before with any kind of business I had been in. So it was pretty cool. And the fact that they really couldn't trust anybody, but they were able to trust me and feel comfortable with the process and have a great outcome with the VA loan. It just, from there on, I'm like, that's it. I'm just doing VA loans.
Okay. Tell me top 5 best things about a VA loan.
Well, no down payment is the most obvious, most easiest. The fact that we go up to 2.5 million now on a VA loan with no down payment. There's so much flexibility there.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
And that varies by lender, so it's not set for everybody. But just know we're not stopping at 417 like they used to, right? You can go a whole lot higher. No mortgage insurance is another huge benefit. Any other program like conventional loan, if you don't put 20% down, you're going to have that mortgage insurance,
right?
Which can be a couple $100 a month. That's just wasted. FHA loans, mortgage insurance, all that. So VA not having that is huge. So even all the way up to 2.5 million, still no down payment, no mortgage insurance. Very competitive interest rates, which is great. Especially the lower your credit score goes, the harder it is, the even better it is to have a VA loan versus a conventional. A conventional loan is going to hit you even harder as your credit score is lower. So that's another huge benefit. It's just not having perfect credit is fine on a VA loan. Let's put it that way.
Good to know.
Yeah. Now you asked for 5, so there's all kinds of other things. One thing I think is great to think of is like right now with interest rates being higher over the last couple of years and everybody waiting for them to go back down. People can still buy a house right now. And then when rates do go down in the future is do a VA streamline refinance. And that's a whole lot easier. It's cheaper. There's no appraisal. There's no out-of-pocket expenses typically. So it's something that instead of being a lot of clients sitting, waiting on the sidelines till rates come down, you can buy now and just refinance later with that streamline refi. So that's a huge benefit of the VA program.
For sure.
Lots of other things like having an assumable loan. VA loans are assumable. So if you do happen to have a low interest rate from years ago, you can potentially sell your house now with an assumption. So somebody, instead of getting a 5, 6, or 7% interest rate in the market right now, they could be hooked up with whatever rate you have on your home, and they can assume your mortgage. So there's a lot of, there's probably 100 different benefits of the program, but that's some of the biggest things that I like to point out.
Those are great.
Yeah.
So let's say somebody does want to assume a loan on a home. And I'll just throw out a scenario. The home is for sale for $500,000. There's $200,000 left on the seller's mortgage.
Okay.
VA assumable.
Yep.
So buyer comes in, wants to assume the VA loan. First off, they have to be a veteran.
They don't have to be. You could be a veteran or a non-veteran.
I find that amazing. Okay. And then if they're, regardless of veteran, non-veteran, what happens with the additional $300,000 between the mortgage that's currently and the sales price?
Yeah, so think about it. If they're assuming that $200,000 loan, say it's at 2% interest rate because they refinanced or bought the house during the pandemic, they've got 2%. If you're going to assume that loan, say it's my loan, my $200,000 loan, you're going to get that 2% interest rate. I've been paying on it for, let's say, 5 years. So you're going to have a 25-year term instead of 30. So you already saved 5 years of payments. You're going to have everything that I had on that loan. However, I'm selling my house for $500,000. So you have to come up with that $300,000 difference. If you have cash, that's great. But a lot of people don't have that kind of cash. So you're looking at probably getting a second lien from a local bank or credit union. And the second lien is probably not going to be for the full 300. It's probably going to be for 100 or 150, part of that. So when there's that much of a gap between the sales price and the balance of the VA loan, you really have to have a bunch of cash.
Okay, that's what I thought. But you can get a second lien. I didn't know that.
Yes.
You can get a second mortgage for
Yes.
it. Okay. Okay.
And there's only certain banks that do the second liens. We don't do those, but they're out there, and I've known people that have gotten them.
Okay.
And then the other side of that is the entitlement. So right now, my VA loan is using my entitlement in my house. If you are a veteran, you can swap entitlement with me. I can go use my entitlement on another house. If you're not a veteran and you're assuming my VA loan, then we're not swiping entitlement because you don't have it. So you're going to be taking my entitlement in that house. Now, because it's a $200,000 house, you're only tying up some of my entitlement, but it's still tied up until you pay off that loan that you assumed or you sell the house. So that could be who knows when.
Right.
So most of the time, my recommendation on assumptions is simply to have the person assuming it be a veteran that's going to swap entitlement. It's just safer. That way you're freed up, you're good to go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I've known you a really long time, and and you've been being so honest and transparent with realtors of like, here's all the stuff that we can do. Like you said, there's more than 5, there's more than 100 of things that are awesome about the VA.
Yeah.
And so a couple years ago, you and I had sat down and you were like going through the misconceptions that people commonly have about the VA, realtors primarily have about the VA, and like how they could be hindering their clients.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So that being said, are you seeing a difference in the past couple of years for that?
We're making progress. I mean, I've been teaching VA classes for almost the full 20 years. In fact, I thought back to it. I started teaching, I think, my first year in the business, and I didn't know a whole lot about VA loans, but I had done one or done two, I'd done a couple, and I started talking about it because I heard so much misinformation. And unfortunately, it's still out there. So I teach VA classes across the state of Texas and I usually it's directly to realtors, because I think the more realtors I can teach about how VA really works, the more they can share that with their clients versus just going one-to-one with a veteran. And so there's still a lot of misinformation. It's interesting to sit in a class with people, and when I mention something, they're like, I didn't know that, and I heard something totally different, and we talk about it, and it's a chance to have that conversation that, well, actually that was true, 30 years ago. It's just not true anymore. Or somebody just say, hey, I don't work with VA buyers. It's just, for whatever reason, they have these stories, I had a bad experience, and I was like, well, when was that? And, well, it was 20 years ago. It's like, things are different these days. But part of it too is also a lot of lenders in the last couple of years really have been struggling. I mean, 50% of loan officers did not renew their license last year. So that's a lot of people getting out of the business. So to make it in the business, a lot of folks that just kind of did conventional or other programs started doing VA as well. And so if you're doing a VA loan and you really haven't done that many before, it's easy to mess it up. So we're seeing a lot of far out loans from other lenders. Sometimes it's people that weren't even eligible for a VA loan, and here they were trying to do a VA loan for them. So we do our best to educate everybody we work with, the customers that call us. We try to walk them through how it works, get their questions answered, address the misconceptions, and then with the realtors, really help them understand the program. That's why my class is 3 hours long, because I've had people say, just, can you make it an hour? Can you make it 2? I'm like, it takes at least 3 hours for me to explain how this program works so that you can help veterans, so.
Yeah. And that's what's just kind of going back to what you were saying about why you got in the business. Like, it really takes a special person to be like, this happened to me. It was a very poor experience, and I never wanted that to happen to somebody again, or someone to deal with that for like your first client.
Yeah.
And so that really probably taught you a lot. But then to step into a position of like, I'm going to educate as many people as I can. So like, what is that like every day when you're waking up of like, you keep wanting to do that?
I just really enjoy it. I enjoy sharing the information. I enjoy surprising people with the facts of how it really works. I enjoy on the daily basis just the actual doing the loans. My team does the grunt work, and I give them credit for that. They are amazing. They carry the load. They do the process, the applications. They work with the pre-approval buyers and help them get offers in. They process the loans. They do the hard stuff. I'm just out there bringing in the business by simply sharing the information about VA loans. I'm not much of a salesperson. I'm not going to use these 10 techniques to sell somebody on something. I prefer you just share the information and be like, look, if you're looking to buy a house and you're a veteran, you definitely need to look at the VA loan, and let's compare it to other programs if we need to. And we could talk about that too. When would you not use a VA loan? In my monthly newsletter, I did one on that where I said, I know it's surprised to hear this from a VA loan specialist, but when would you not use a VA loan? Here are the 5 or 10 or whatever I had that month, just mentioning the things that sometimes one-off situations, it would make more sense to use something else. But the vast majority of the time for veterans, it's going to be the best option.
And I've had so much feedback from like our set down that we had like on our show that we did 2 years ago. But, like a lot of people had no clue. Like even my own family members were like, I really had no idea. Like they got it from like the military, like somewhere like from their brothers and sisters of like their own misconceptions they heard. And it kind of goes down the telephone, the game of telephone, where it's like
changing.
Yeah. And it's like, well, I heard it from him and that's my brother, like, so it's kind of it's an interesting conversation to start opening up and for people to start becoming aware of like, you may have been misled and let's get you in the right spot. You've earned it.
That's what we're doing here today. Exactly. Try to get the word out because it's just not right that veterans are not getting their VA benefit just because, a lender said it wasn't a good option or their uncle said, use something else. I mean, if you won't believe the decisions folks make based on information that's just not accurate.
Well, I wonder if a lot of times, and maybe not even a lot of times, but sometimes the sellers tend to not want to take a VA or FHA over conventional or cash, and that's unfortunate. But I have come across that quite a bit.
Yeah, it's just a matter of perception and experience. If they've done a lot of conventional and that's all they really know, it's going to be a lot easier to say yes to a conventional loan. But they just don't, fully understand VA is all it is. Mm-hmm. And in those situations where somebody makes an offer and maybe they're not being receptive, we recommend having the listing agent just call the lender and talk with them about it. Hopefully they know what they're talking about when it comes to VA. Otherwise you might be in trouble. Mm-hmm. But I want to give you an example of something back to what we were talking about as far as just misunderstandings and misconceptions. Mm-hmm. Really good example. I had a client years ago who called us and he had been turned down by 3 lenders, not from qualifying purposes, but just they said he wasn't eligible. 3 different companies said he wasn't eligible. And he called us and I was like, who even calls a second company? Once usually the lender tells you're not eligible, you might be like, okay, I guess I can't get a VA loan. Called 3 different companies. All 3 said he wasn't. Talked to a realtor friend of his and they said, well, call the VA guys that we know, right? So they give us a call. I talked with him directly about it. And I said, well, okay, you had a VA foreclosure in the past. So that took up a certain amount of your entitlement. But what the other lenders didn't realize, you can still use your remaining entitlement to get a VA loan without paying back the original loan to the VA, which is shocking and surprising. But all the other 3 lenders said, well, according to your certificate of eligibility, it says you have 0 basic entitlement, which is true. He had 0 basic entitlement, but he had this thing called remaining entitlement. So it's just a matter of education. We're able to pre-approve him that same day to purchase the house that he was living in because his landlord was selling it. And so he's able to use his VA loan after 3 companies said, no, you can't. So that kind of stuff, I mean, I felt really good about what we're able to do, but felt horrible that how many other people out there are being told the same thing. The lender's saying you're not eligible. When, they earn these benefits. So that's why we do what we do.
Right.
And you know how it is like in the military, like there's so much complexity when it comes to like your medical benefits and like programs and like all that stuff. And so, you have to have like a pretty strong mindset of like, this is what I want to do. And this is what I need to do for whatever reason in the future, right? Of like purchasing a house. And so it's just another step that you got to take, with your DD-214 and like taking all those information that you worked so hard for and then just, being patient with it, even though it's hard when you're dealing with military stuff.
Well, and a lot of folks getting out of the military, you're not thinking right away, I want to buy a house. A lot of times I need to get a job. I need to figure out where I'm going with my life. I'm leaving the military world, going in the civilian world. What am I going to do? And even though they're given all of these briefings on all the benefits, it might take days to go through all the briefings that they have. They're not remembering all that. It's just too much. And if they're looking to get a job, that's their first thing they're focused on. It might be a year or 2 or even more down the road that they're thinking, I want to buy a house. and they're probably not even going to remember the VA loan. So that's where realtors really make a difference. If your first question you have is, did you serve, to anybody that you meet, did you serve? Did your spouse serve? Because if you did, there are benefits for you. The VA program and also the Texas Vet Housing Assistance Program is another great benefit for veterans as well here in Texas. So I just count on realtors to ask that question and get that conversation going. I'll also mention from a perspective of realtors is that we've had plenty of times where realtors have been fired by clients because they simply didn't know anything about VA, or they were bad mouthing the program and they just had negative things saying that the buyer's like, look at, or the customer, I'm using this to buy the house. Like, if you don't, if you don't want to get behind it, I can find another realtor. And that's what they do. Mm-hmm. So it's so important to learn the program, understand how it works, and stay up to date on it and know what's going on,
And like you were saying, like whenever you're at a listing presentation, like you also need to know that too. Like when you're sitting down, filling out the financing portion, like, but then it goes down to like, is the house eligible for VA loans?
Right.
So like, can you kind of walk us through, like, to inform realtors, like what are the key things you need to be looking at when you're at a house, or a seller may need to know when they're looking to sell, of what things would cause them an issue?
Sure. And it's a lot easier than you think. The vast majority of properties out there are going to be just fine on VA. It's VA. Condos is going to be a little different because it needs to be a VA approved condo. And there's a list for that, but there's also a process to get it approved. And lots of condos, thousands across the state of Texas are approved.
Before we go on, like, is that kind of like USDA, like when you can go online and check and see?
Like FHA loan. The FHA loans have, so sometimes you go on the VA website. For instance, my first VA loan was on a condo, and it was VA approved condo, so I was able to get that. If you go in there today and look up that same address, it's not VA approved anymore. I don't know why, but it is FHA approved. So that means that you can go FHA, but if you want to go VA, you actually still have to go through the VA process to get it approved. By the way, we can help anybody do that at any time. They don't have to be our customer, our client, because the more homes, the more condos we can get approved for veterans in Texas, the more options veterans have. So we're happy to help with that. As far as houses, it's really almost anything. Really, it's not that limited. You do need to find like a special lender for maybe a mobile home or manufactured home. We can do them, but I've only done 2 in 20 years. So I'm not an expert on that, and there's a lot of restrictions and things. If the home is in really bad shape, you might run into a bunch of repair issues. You do have the termite inspection on a VA loan, and that could have potential treatment of conducive conditions, that kind of thing. But the VA appraisal on occasion does have required repairs. And if you have required repairs, then you have to deal with that before closing. So it'd be, if you think this house is going to need a lot of repairs, then it may have an issue with going VA. But I remember years ago, I had somebody call me and she said, she had done a lot of VA loans with me over the years and said, hey, this house looks like it's going to have a lot of issues, right? Can you take a look at the home inspection? I was like, well, I don't normally look at that stuff because we don't need it. It's optional on VA. But she sent it. I looked at it and I said, look, there's a lot of things in here that could be a VA required repair. But until you get the appraisal done, you really don't know because, the appraiser does what they do. It came back with 0 repairs required. Wow. So you just don't know.
Yeah. So maybe a recommendation is just like, if you're going to sell it, maybe you get like a 5 major component inspection or something like that. But then as far as like, I wanted to lean into what you were saying. Yeah. Like what you were saying about the repairs. Like if an appraiser does come back and say, hey, you got to fix this stuff. Is that something that has to be fixed like prior to closing? Or it's like, hey, we'll negotiate that the seller's going to pay for it, or vice versa?
Yeah, it's typically before closing. Sometimes you do an escrow holdback, depending on what it is. So you could have it done after. Typically, it is at the seller's expense. However, it's all negotiable, just like everything else in real estate. And also, in my classes, I always teach the realtors to have something in Section 12A 1C for seller contributions. And if you have, say, $1,000 in there, it's just a great thing to have there, because if there are any non-allowable fees on VA, which typically we don't run into anymore, but it does happen sometimes, it's already there to be covered. But also, if a required repair comes up, you've already got $1,000 in there to work with. A lot of the repairs, sometimes it's $500, $200, whatever, small stuff. You could just say, hey, you already agreed to $1,000. It's going to be about $500 for that repair. We'll just knock it down to $500 in seller contributions, and you can do that repair for us.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we try to get smart about it so that, it's a little bit easier.
It's a win-win for everybody.
Exactly.
It's not so cutthroat.
We've already agreed to that kind of thing. Yeah.
I love that. So I wanted to ask you too, like about like, as far as like vets that are getting ready to get out, like maybe they're getting ready to, leave base. Like, is that something that maybe you go to Fort Hood or, San Antonio and you're talking to veterans like at all, like as far as your educational aspects?
Yeah, so that's a great question. That'd be a great place to be. It's really hard to get in there. So I have my main branch in Austin, and we have a second branch in Killeen, right outside of Fort Cavazos. And for years, they've been working on getting on base there, but there's basically an agreement with the bank, and they kind of own all that. But we do things like veteran appreciation lunches that are off base. Anybody that has served can come and eat lunch for free, and they do all kinds of different things. It's every other month or so, but just things to get them to come out, and then that's when we speak with them. That's why Realtors has really been our focus, because Realtors tend to find everybody that's out there that's looking for a house, right? So we teach the Realtors, and then they find the veterans that need help. And also, you mentioned, people that aren't out yet. I say veteran for kind of everybody, but we do active duty loans as well. Once you've served 90 days on active duty, you're eligible for a VA loan. It doesn't mean you're qualified because you need a certain amount of work history and things like that. But, active duty folks, active duty service members, they too can get a VA loan. So especially in the Fort Cavazos area, we're doing a lot of VA loans there for active duty.
Are you kind of saying that's a better option for people rather than like, I know staying on base would make a lot more sense, but like when we were in the military, like my husband was, like we stayed off base, got some, but is it better just to go buy a house, like, and then maybe use it as an investment in the future?
Yeah, it's different for everybody. Yeah. Really. I know one of the stories where somebody was there back when it was Fort Hood for like 10 years and they never bought a house because they're always worried about being sent somewhere and having to move. So they just rented the whole time. And then they finally decided to get a house. So we got them a VA loan. You already know where I'm going with this, right? As soon as they close, it's like 2 months, 3 months later, they got orders to go to another base. So it happens. The cool thing with a VA loan, you can not only use it more than once, but you can have more than one VA loan at the same time. The most I've ever seen is 4. I had a veteran that had 4 VA loans at the same time. Some of them are multi-unit properties. So it was like having 10 investment properties because some of them were 4-unit properties. That's a whole nother discussion. We can go there. But for these folks, they could have, kept that home there at Fort Hood at the time and then gone and get another VA loan somewhere else if they could qualify with both. But with VA, you can also get a lease on your current home. And if that offsets the mortgage, you don't have to count it against you for the new home. So it's a huge benefit for the VA and for VA buyers. Wow. So it's pretty cool.
I was going to ask about benefits for children.
Okay. That's a great question.
Okay. I had heard, but go ahead and tell me.
So I just had an appointment yesterday with somebody and they scheduled like a week in advance. They wanted me to a specific day, specific time. So him and his wife could be on the phone. And we started talking, right at the beginning, I said, well, as you know, I'm a VA loan specialist. I'm happy to help you all with your VA benefits. And they said, oh, we're not veterans. We never served. But both of our parents did. And so they were like, hey, what can we do? How can that work? And I said, unfortunately, it doesn't work. You don't use a VA benefit from your parents or from other family members. The bottom line really is primary residence for the veteran. So the veteran needs the owner occupy the property as their primary residence for at least 12 months. So obviously, if the daughter or son, you're not, you don't have that, you're not occupying it. However, if that person that called me, their father was going to occupy with them because maybe he's going to take care of his parents or they're just going to live in the same house, then you can do that. The father could buy it completely on his own and it would just be a zero down loan, or he can purchase it with his son if they're both going to live in it. So the father and son both living in the property, but it'd be a 12.5% down payment or up to 14% down. So there is a down payment involved when you're adding somebody that's not your spouse. If they're your spouse, then you don't have the down payment. But
okay, and then
so it is possible.
Yeah,
but not directly just for them by themselves. I'm sorry.
You're fine. And I'm just wondering, like a surviving spouse or anything like that, they can use that as well, right?
Correct. The thing is, the death of the veteran has to be military related, or for instance, killed in action, or whatever they got from their service is the cause of death. Or they were a 100% disabled veteran at the time that they passed away. Okay. If they had that 100% rating with VA, then it's very likely that the surviving spouse will have the VA loan benefit and be able to go get another VA loan. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So I want to ask you about like personalities. Like when you're dealing with veterans, like they're not just your average civilian,
They're as crazy as I am most of the time. That's what I think. I fit right in. It works great.
And they love it. But I'm just curious, like, how is that like, working with them and like maybe the trauma that they've seen? Like, does that take any like what does that take from you? And
Yeah. I can tell you that's the part that I think the experience that me and my team have and both the branches, is how to work with people that are struggling with things. And I mean, we've seen so many different things, and over time, I don't think it ever gets easier. But we know, okay, we've seen this before. This is what this person needs. I remember somebody coming to my office and sitting down, and he had a horrible experience with the process working with us. The whole experience was too much. It was overwhelming. And he sat there and just said, I'm going to wait till my meds kick in. And we just sat. And I remember it seemed like forever, but he just needed the meds to kick in where he could just have a conversation with me. And we recommended he do that because something was not right. Something was not working for him. He was just upset about the process. And after that, I remember him sending us a huge basket of all kinds of alcohol and stuff, but something fun that things that he went out and picked out himself because he felt like we had heard him. And that was the big thing. That just take the time to hear somebody, and I struggle with that. Let's get this stuff done. Efficiency, boom, boom, boom. Let's move fast. And we have some great systems in place. Anytime something goes wrong, we look at what went wrong and let's fix the system. Let's make it so that it works better. If somebody has a bad experience, what happened? Why did that happen? What can we do to make it so it doesn't happen again? And you just do that for 20 years and eventually you got a pretty tight system. But going back to your question, it's just taking one person at a time and kind of seeing them on where they are, and some folks have just, they might be a financial advisor or something or engineer, and they just have all this information already and they just want to fly through it and they don't need a lot of hand holding or walking through. And other folks are just like, look, I've never bought a house. This is a huge investment for me. Can we slow it down? Can you walk me through? And my whole team just takes each person, whoever they're working with, just recognizes, hey, we need to slow down here. We need to help them understand how it works. But honestly, we've still not figured it all out because there's still times when we'll do the same thing for two different people. And this person will say it's the best thing that's ever happened to them. And the other will say that they didn't have a great experience. So we're still learning and growing,
Yeah. And that's just part of life and part of business.
Yeah.
But that's really honorable that your team actually is at a point where it's like, oh, we identify that and we can we've got systems in place that we can work around that or, put the best person, in touch with them because maybe you've got, your alpha on your team that may not be the person that needs to take care of that Bravo over there.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did it work?
I think Marine Corps stuff in there too. Systems, process, go.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, whenever you decided to build a team, what did that look like for you as far as what your ambitions were and how things are what it's taught you?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of ways out of necessity. I had, for years, a couple of years in a row, did 5 loans a month. And I learned that was the limit. If I had more calls coming in and I already had 5, it's I can't do it. Stressed all the time, just too much. And so I literally was just consistent at that same number for years. And I actually heard a guy with a CD that was sending out a CD on sales.
It's a CD.
Oh, yeah. Back in the day when they had those things. I just remember listening to that, and he was like, it's easier to do 20 loans. His name was Brian Peart. So I don't know if he's still in the business, but that's a shout out to Brian Peart. Never met the guy, but easier to do 20 loans than to do 5. And I was like, you're crazy. 6 is too much. I'm not going to do 20. And it's just funny that perspective years later when you look back and say, okay, he was absolutely right. Because to do 5, you can do it yourself. To do 20, you've got to have a team, and then the team's going to be doing it. It's not going to be all you. So it just started with one person. We had one person join my team, and he was amazing. And he, I didn't trust him with anything at first, and then he would start to take over parts of the process. Right? That's just how it works. You have an assistant, you have a second person in line that's going to take those things and help you. He's more than assistant. He was, a loan officer for sure. Now the production manager, but just started taking over, parts of the process, and I started just letting go. And that is so hard. Anybody in business knows it's so hard to let go of parts that you own it. It's somebody's pointing to somebody next to you.
What are you talking about?
But when you do, you're freed up to go to that next thing to work on other things that maybe you do better, or that, in fact, he took over parts that he did a lot better than me, and it's you think you can just do everything the best, and then you have somebody else do it better, and you're like, oh, this is great. I need them to keep doing that, and then we just kept filling in when we needed more folks to grow the team. So
your assistant and then processor stepped in, and now he's at a higher rank with you right now. Is that what you're saying?
No, so he wasn't a processor. He was the loan officer. He actually moved down from Missouri. His name's Ryan Bray. Shout out to Ryan Bray. He's amazing. He's made all the difference. He's made us what we are today, to be honest, just because he came in so early. He moved from Missouri, where our corporate office is at, moved down to Austin in 2014. Yeah, 2014. And is that right? Yeah, that's right. Because I started 10 years before that in business.
He's been with you for over 10 years?
Yes, and he's been with the company over 18 years.
Wow.
So, but he came in as a loan officer and started kind of doing everything behind the scenes that I needed support on, so that I could focus more on teaching and growing the business as far as lead generation. And I like teaching people about VA loans, frankly. Until everybody knows about them, I'm going to keep doing that.
Yeah.
You know?
So I got to ask you, like, for someone to stick around to have that kind of retention rate for a small business owner, when you like were struggling with delegation and like trusting someone, like
I made a lot of mistakes.
we all do. But I want to ask you, like, what has that been like, like seeing him raise the ranks, and like, he's like sitting where he is now, like, what things as far as retention do you think worked?
I think just the open communication with each other and just being honest about stuff. A lot of it has to do with him. He is really, he's chill when I'm not chill. So he can take on a lot of things. And when I'm getting stressed and I'm getting we're probably a lot alike. That's what it comes down to. When I get all fired up, I get all fired up about stuff, and I'm just, all that, and he'll just be chill, and he'll just step in and get it done. Just the open communication, I think. And I'm not afraid to tell him, hey, I want this done differently. He'll tell you I pester about stuff. It's just because everything I want a certain way. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he's just really good at taking coaching and also just doing stuff on his own and just taking things on. And he always puts the veteran first. And that's what's great, is everybody on my team, they've been tested at some point where they could have done something that would have gotten us in trouble or would have gotten the veteran in trouble. And every time they made the right decision. So at least every time I've seen it. So it's just great to have people I trust that trust me, that I trust them to just do what they do,
So integrity, bringing value to your team, and then, just like trust. Always putting, trust, and, bringing value, and like being able to be coachable. Like, I think that's such a big piece of for having a team.
Well, and the business is changing all the time. So we're constantly getting new training on different things. And we have AI now. It's unbelievable, the stuff that's happening with that.
Are you for or against?
It's not up to me. It's going to happen regardless. I don't know where it's going to take us, but at this point, I mean, it's becoming a huge part of the mortgage business. And so there's things, every call that we have, like right now, if you call the office, it's going to summarize it AI, and it's going to send me a summary. And that way, and then also it can create an email to then send to let you know, hey, I just talked with you, and here's the summary. And some of that I haven't even started using yet, but my team is using, and it's to help capture information that makes it more helpful to also make decisions, to help connect with their people we're working with.
Right.
When I make notes, I just write down a couple things on a notepad, and I put it in the system. Mm-hmm. But when the system picks it up, it's going to pick up everything, so that I can remember that, hey, they really wanted this or really wanted that. So it helps us more customize our services to our customer as well.
Yeah. And it gives you so much more time back, and then like your team a lot more time back to focus on the thing that really matters, is of helping veterans, and like just getting to work. And so it takes the minutia of administration, but you're still gathering the information and retaining it for the client, right?
Yeah, exactly. And our mission is very clear: to enhance as many lives as possible for as long as possible. That's it.
I love that.
Yeah. And so in that regard, we are now going to service up to 100% of our loans. It will never be 100% servicing, because we do the Texas Vet program, and that goes to another company just because of how they service them. But it's our new goal as a company to service as close to 100% of our loans as we can. And that allows us to do that long-term support of our clients, and to be there when they have questions, when they need another loan in the future, when it comes time to refinance, what have you.
And for people who don't know what you mean by that, I think what you mean is instead of packaging up a bunch of loans and selling it to a different mortgage company, is that what you mean?
Right.
Servicing
you take your regular check, your payment every month. We go to our company and we'd be servicing it. You call us when you have questions. We can be there long term. In the past, it didn't make sense to do that, because there were just the way the business works. And when your company funds, 70 or 80,000 VA loans in a year, or loans in a year in general, you can't service all of them, but we're putting things in place to be able to do that.
That's awesome.
So I love being part of the largest VA lender in the country, to be able to have the small branches that we have in Texas, be able to cover the whole state of Texas, but also be backed by such an amazing company that focuses just, on helping veterans. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you said the main hub is in Missouri?
In Missouri, yep.
Yeah, and so you got this one in Texas. So you guys can literally help veterans all over the United States.
Right. Yep. And I personally only do Texas just because that's big enough for me. And I have a long way to go. But as a company, yeah, we cover every state.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So let's just pretend that there's somebody that did a VA loan, may have had a poor experience or a good experience, who knows? But what are some things that like you would do, like coming in to help them to determine what's best for them, like moving forward?
As far as maybe getting another loan, buying a house?
Yeah, like what are some options that they could do to maximize the VA?
Yeah. So the very first step is just to talk about having a down payment and putting money down. If they're not putting at least 20% down, VA is almost every time going to be the best option just because of that. Because anything less than 20% down, something else, you're going to have that mortgage insurance again that we talked about. We look at, we talk about their goals and their timeline, really.
Right.
What are they trying to accomplish? What are they trying to get to? Do they want $200,000 house or $2 million house? How soon are you trying to do this? If you currently own a home, is it a VA loan? If it is, are you going to keep it or sell it? Then we have to factor in the entitlement, what's available, what's not available. Just kind of understand their situation and kind of get a feel for it. Do you have concerns about income or credit? They're the two I usually ask about early on. Well, I don't have concerns about credit, but my income, I just left my job. I've had that before. Well, what's your plan? When are you going to have the job, or do you have fixed income? So just to mention, a lot of veterans have disability income from the VA, so they have a disability rating. When you get up to 100%, for instance, you have no property taxes in the state of Texas. So there are 100% disabled veterans renting right now, paying $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month, when they could buy a house for less than that because they don't have property taxes. So I love helping the 100% disabled vets get a house because their payment probably may not even change, or they'll get a much nicer place than where they were renting, and they'll still have a great payment because they don't have the property taxes.
That's incredible. Yeah. And sometimes veterans don't know that they could, it's probably wise, to go back and get your benefits reevaluated as needed.
As far as disability.
Yeah.
They should definitely. And a lot of them that have the ratings know to keep on top of that. I've never done it myself, so I don't know what the actual process is like. I know, but yeah, there's a lot more things in place to help veterans these days, and there's a lot of resources. So we don't just do VA loans. We have resources for veterans, places we can recommend in Austin or across Texas. And because Austin's the capital, there's a lot of resources that support veterans statewide. So the Texas Veterans Program, we've been doing that a very long time. The Texas Veterans Commission, TVC, that's a great place to go for almost anything related to veterans. They can help them. But even internally as a company, we have the free in-house credit repair program. So there's a lot of people that apply that just don't have the minimum credit score. We're at a 620. Every lender can be a little bit different on that number. But we do free in-house credit repair to bring up their scores to the 620 or higher, free of charge, and so it helps folks that can't qualify because of credit to get there. And most recently, maybe a week or two ago, we heard that we've helped over 100,000 veterans now with their credit. So that's a lot of people that were moving from not qualifying to potentially qualifying because of it. So it's great.
That's awesome.
I love helping people.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's why that makes it easier getting up in the morning. You're like, okay, I've got people need my help. It feels good.
You have a mission,
Exactly.
Going out and doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So do you have any questions?
No.
No?
No questions.
That's it. You're all set. She's ready to go help.
I'm ready to go whole class. No, totally.
That's it.
I just love that y'all are giving back to people who gave so much.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Your mission.
I could speak to that then too, as far as we give back financially as well. We have a Veterans United Foundation, and most employees in the company, I think we have 4,000 or 5,000 employees, give at least 1% of their income to the foundation. The foundation then matches that, and then they give back in their community. So we gave 27,000 or something last year to our Austin community, and other branches. It's tens of millions of dollars over time that we've been giving back to the community to support causes. It doesn't have to be veteran causes, but it's just putting it out there, helping our local community, usually housing related things like that.
That's awesome. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be one specific thing. It's going back to the community in various aspects,
Exactly.
however it's needed.
That's what we do. Yeah.
So I did want to ask you, like, one of the biggest things that I'm seeing come up, especially like out here in like the rural areas, is like property insurance, and that, or like certain insurance companies are like dropping
Yeah.
people. So I know that a veteran may not have mortgage insurance, but are you having like any feedback as far as like getting insurance policies for your clients as you're going through the process?
I mean, it's getting a lot harder, but we don't actually get the policy. I mean, they always pick whoever they want. So we do have an in-house insurance company that helps broker with multiple, insurance providers. So they can compare with that. They compare with who they already have for their car insurance, and then anybody else they want, they can pick it. But sometimes it's off the charts. So we might average $200 a month for insurance when we estimate payments for them, and then they go get a quote, and it could be $400 or $500.
Right.
Or they can't get it at all, which has happened on occasion, or it's been so ridiculous they couldn't afford it. So once you go under contract, they should be getting insurance quotes right away to find out how much is that really going to cost. And sometimes it's less, $100 or $150. But generally speaking, insurance is a whole lot more expensive these days. So you've got to factor that into your estimates for the payment and what you want to pay. We do have people apply that say, I talk to them on the phone first before they apply, and I said, well, how much are you looking to get? What kind of home price, or, kind of thing? They're like, whatever you can pre-approve me for. It's like, well, I don't want to do that. I want to go, where is your budget on a monthly basis that you don't want to exceed? Like, where do you want to stop? If I say your monthly payment's $5,000, how do you feel about that? They're like, no, that's too high. I'm like, well, what's the number? Is it 1,200? Is it 1,500? That's what we'll work on pre-approving them for. That way they're not, so far out of, out of the range where they feel comfortable, because you don't want to put somebody in a house and them not feel good about paying it or not be able to pay it.
Absolutely.
So we're real careful about that, but insurance can mess it up. So the sooner you can get a quote for that, the better. That's just one part of the thing that's adding to the lowest home affordability and I guess highest unaffordability is how you'd say it, but the hardest to buy home in 40 years. That's how hard affordability is right now. I mean, it's really bad. So that's part of it, insurance.
I got a text from a client yesterday. Just they had seen something on social media, but supposedly the mortgages are behind. Higher. I don't know how to say what I'm saying. More people are behind on their mortgages since 2009 when the crash happened.
Right.
Are you seeing that?
I don't see it myself because I'm on the front end of it, the origination side of it.
Okay, so you wouldn't.
But I've seen some reports and things that, I mean, it's definitely growing and it's probably expected to get worse. There's a lot of changes happening right now in the world.
Yeah.
And that's affecting people's ability to make the payments. And even changes with student loans are affecting us and veterans buying houses because their payment might have been on an income-based or a deferment type thing. And now they're saying, no, everything's due now. And I know I read something about somebody had a $500 a month payment, went to $2,800.
Oh.
So that changes everything. I mean, that just is craziness. So we're seeing that some folks just can't afford a house because of student loan payments, because of other insurance going up. I mean, various things happening, home prices, interest rates, it just keeps going. So
it's not the same as it was back then when you had that $400 a month payment.
Yeah, it's not the same. Not the same at all. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's things that we have to think about for our youth as well, as like, and it's helpful to have people like you that are educating veterans and their families, like about how they can maximize that benefit. And so, what are you looking forward to in 2025, like for what you're doing and your mission that you're doing?
I'm looking forward to more people being able to buy a house and coming off the sidelines. A lot of folks have been waiting for years. Last year was, I'm waiting for rates to come down. I'm waiting for the election. Yeah. Then the election was over, and then they're like, well, now I'm waiting for rates to come down. And they just keep waiting. My crystal ball, which typically doesn't work, but I'm thinking what's going to happen is the rates will come down just a little bit enough that people will come off the sidelines, and then you'll see a mad rush to buy houses, and then you'll be waiting in line to make your offer. So for somebody that is thinking about buying a house, I'd be doing it now before that mad rush happens.
And I was just thinking the other day is like, from 2020, like that was bananas. 21 was bananas. Yep. And so like, it's like you couldn't even keep a house on the market. And then it was like gone with multiple offers. It was like everybody was getting organs for a house. Like it was a thing, It was. And then it was stayed, and then it was like stagnant. But I have noticed more homes go up on the market in the past couple of weeks than I've seen in a really long time. time. Like there's so many for sale signs like sitting in the yard. It's like the sellers, like I feel like after the election was like, okay, I'm going to sell.
Yeah, I definitely think you're going to see more homes on the market, and I hope you do, because that's what we need.
We need buyers though.
Well, yeah, and we need the buyers to come in. That's what I was mentioning too. They need to get off the sidelines, and
Yes.
and honestly, with the VA streamline refi, they can refi later when rates come down.
Right.
You just don't know when that's going to happen, but at least, and now you could get in a house, and what if the price goes down in the next couple of years, the price goes up? Long term, it always is shown to be better off owning than renting. As folks say, well, interest rates are too high. Well, renting is 100% interest rate.
I use that line all the time.
It really is.
I love that line.
Out the window. I don't know how to break that down for somebody, but I mean, really, you're not building any equity. That's for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I always think to myself, I'm just like, that's so generous of you that you're building someone else's net worth. Like, when are you going to take that time for you?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Great
So
point.
this has been great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and
So and fun, right?
I'm doing all right. Yeah.
so are you doing, so you're
Did
doing,
I get all the right answers?
yes, you checked all the boxes. You
Okay.
get an A for today.
Okay.
And so I did want to ask you, like, you are getting ready to teach a class for South Central Board of Realtors, right?
Yeah, it's across the state of Texas, but any association can pick it up. Realtor Association. Yeah.
Yeah. So if someone wants to do that, who can they contact?
Everything, you can find me at chadbowman.com. It's that easy. ChadBowman.com.
Awesome.
So I've got my monthly newsletter there, which I think is great. It's good for veterans, but especially great for realtors. I write one every month. In fact, today's the first of the month, so it's already gone out today.
Yeah.
And it goes out the first Tuesday of the month. And I dig into, and I spend hours and hours and hours writing these things, but it's from scratch. There's no AI involved, I promise. And I do it myself. No, really, I'm serious. Like I write these myself, and then my team is gracious enough to help fix the typos and tell me what I need to write differently and things like that. But I teach on a specific topic on VA. So this month it was the VA appraisal dispute process. So there is a way to dispute an appraisal if it comes in short. So this whole thing. So I explain that in detail, probably more than anybody wants, but it's all there if you need it.
Good to know, though.
And then in there, I mentioned my upcoming VA classes. You can also find them at chadbowman.com. And then folks that want to just reach out to me, schedule time to meet or call or contact, whatever. I love being a resource for people. So, they don't have to do business with us to call me. They can just call and ask a question.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm there for.
Yeah. It was so funny. Like before he came, like I was flipping through my emails and I was just like, is he sending me this to like as a topic? And then you got here. So it was just, of course, it was your newsletter, but it is full of a lot of great information just for the average person, realtor, and VA member that, may want to consider using their.
Just part of educating everybody. Doing my best to get it out there.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm going to have to subscribe as soon as we're done.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that Chad was able to help you, and then please share with your family and any veterans that so they get informed, and because he's out there working really hard to keep you informed. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us at texastrioteam.com. Take care and keep living your best life.
Bye, guys.
Yay!
Can we do it?
Woo!